All right. Yes, we are live. This is Cynthia Glickman with Messages from the Universe with Sherry. And I know there's a special pronunciation. It's like a French pronunciation, Fernandez.
Portuguese.
Oh,
Fernandez.
Portuguese.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Portuguese Fernandez, but Fernandez works. It's more common.
Okay. And anyway, welcome back. I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat if you have any questions. And I just want to say thank you so much, Sherry, for taking the time out to be with us today. All right. Yes. Oh, we are live. We probably don't want the echo. So a little bit about Sherry. She's a speaker, a teacher, a mentor, and now the author of Life Mastery, Personal Progression Toward an Infinite Potential. And I'm all about that, our infinite potential and the infiniteness of everything. So I'm going to let you share your story. I do want to just mention, I really want to start from the beginning. So if it's okay with you, can I just let you take the ball and run with it, girl?
It's not at the beginning. I think what interests people is how I got here, right? Because that's one of the things that makes me different in what I'm doing is that I have successfully lived the principles that I've taught for a very long time, found success more than I imagined. So how did I get here? So I guess it go all the way back is somehow as a little girl, my mother left my father when we were just little and it was the early 60s and divorced women didn't do well. And we're four of us little girls and I was the oldest and I just was kind of left to wander. And I wandered around this little town we lived in and just thought a lot. And somewhere in all my thinking, I used to go to the movies a lot too. And somewhere in all my thinking and movie going, I got the idea that I was somebody special. I didn't know what special meant or looked like. I thought somehow
somebody special, right?
Everybody's somebody special, but I didn't know that at that time. All I knew is that I figured, I don't know how I even knew this, but I decided there's a God in heaven. He knows me and I'm somebody special. He's looking out special for me and probably was because it's amazing that I got through that time without being, something bad happening to me or any worse than what did happen. So, but I did have this idea that I was special and that it's great things. I just didn't know what great things looked like. When I kind of wasted my late teen years partying and the sex, drugs, and rock and roll era. But when I settled down with nothing with my husband and we had two little girls and I want things, but we were struggling to put food on the table. We were literally just barely surviving, working, my husband working two jobs. And we were not surviving.
But you were pretty young too, weren't you?
Yeah, we were pretty young.
How old were you when you first?
So about this time, I'm about 24 about this point. We've got these two little girls and I just wanted everything. I thought I want to have a great body and still have kids. And I don't want to live on a budget. I don't want to live like this. I want to have financial freedom. And I missed the education. I'd been a debater in high school. I have a pretty good IQ and intelligence. And I wanted to make up for what I lost. I wanted to be educated and I wanted to have a rich spiritual life. I just wanted everything. And I was without any discipline whatsoever at that point. And so I just went to work figuring out, I started reading the books and listening to the speakers and going to seminars. And I educated myself and tried to figure out how to make it happen. And it took years, of course. We set a goal to be millionaires by the time we were 40, which we were. We just went to town applying the principles. I didn't just want to be successful in one thing, though. The money was important, great, but I didn't want just to be money. I wanted to be all those things. I wanted all those things. I wanted just to be the best me that I could be.
So what are all those things? Like, I think that there's like 5 main things, right?
There's 8 actually that I talk about.
So you talk about 8. Okay.
Yeah, they're the physical, of course, physically having, everybody wants to look good and feel good and be healthy. And I wanted the best body that I could have. And the spiritual and then relationships, of course. I had not really planned to get married in life, but there I am married. And so I wanted the best marriage possible. I had not seen good marriages. So I wanted the best marriage I could have. So relationships and money, vocation, education, lifestyle, and character. Did I get 8? I think that's all of them.
I don't know. I got relationship. I got spiritual, which is important. Physical.
Physical, spiritual, relationships, education, money, vocation, lifestyle, and character.
Vocation, lifestyle, and
Character. Yeah. Because it's so easy. The character is important, because one of the things that occurred to me over the years of teaching, I didn't add that till later, that occurred to me over the years of teaching these principles and mentoring, is how I had to keep people on track a little bit to not sell out when they were looking for something else, right? To make sure that they weren't cutting corners. When you want something really bad, it's really easy to cut corners. And then where was a place to talk about the language we used, or being more honest in our speech?
And maybe you're already going there, and I apologize if I'm cutting you off, but when you say selling out, like with what is going on in the world today, selling out to me like is making a deal with the devil. So I don't.
Okay, maybe not selling out. Maybe
what do you mean by selling out?
Yeah, so selling out, like maybe I should say cutting corners, but maybe selling out. Like, so if I'm so intent on making this, I tell the story in the book. It's such a good story. We've really managed our lives with integrity. We've worked really hard to be very honest, and my husband is as honest as a person comes. But when our business was new and we were still struggling, we didn't even know if it was going to make it. We were delivered 12 cases of something that he ordered 12 of. And we got 12 cases instead. I'm like, oh, great profit margin, right? We returned it, and we didn't do that. But those are the kind of things that you can do if you're not watching your character, or you might not be honest in a relationship because you're trying to make this other thing happen. So if we're working on our character simultaneously with everything else, we won't lose ourselves in the pursuit of our goals, other things.
So where is God in all of that?
For me, the center. I don't know how everyone else looks at it, but I like what Ryan Holiday says. I quote it quite a bit. He said that if our bodies all of a sudden went numb, we'd rush to the doctor and wonder what's wrong. But a lot of us are walking around completely spiritually numb, and we're not even alarmed. I think for me, the spiritual is the center of everything.
Yeah, well, I probably shouldn't keep talking about this topic, but that's part of what some of the agenda is right now with the jabberdoodle apple juice poison. So
I don't know. It's interesting to me that I have not come across, I've done about 70 interviews, and I have worked with, I can't even tell you how many clients, and I've yet to find one person that didn't want something more spiritually, no, we shouldn't say it that way, was not invested spiritually in some way, at some form. Every client, every coast, you think that there's a lot of anti-spiritualness, I guess, out there. It still looks different for everybody, a little different, not that much different, but everybody seems to realize that I talk to. Maybe that's just who I'm attracting, but
it's probably your circle, because I suppose there's people out there that are atheists, and
but I don't think there's very many, honest.
What's that?
I don't think there's very many. I mean, there might be, but that I don't. Well,
I don't know.
They get around.
Yeah. So tell me about the formula that you came up with that is, I don't know, would you call it the magic bullet, or how do we fulfill our infinite potential?
It's I think the formula you're talking about is with contentment, meaning that I know I'm good who I am, plus progress equals happiness. We can't really progress unless we know we're valuable and we're content with ourselves. But then we can't be happy if we don't progress as well. We can't be happy staying there. We need to improve. So it's contentment plus progress equals happiness. And I can't really claim that as my own. I can't remember where I first heard it, but I find it true.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, though, that being content actually is kind of knowing that you're worthy then, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Having that, which is also some inner peace, right? When you feel like you're whole and complete as you are. But that might go into because a lot of people don't have that.
No, and that comes up quite a bit. That question comes up quite a bit. What if I don't feel worthy? Well, the solution's still the same. Start doing things that make you proud of you. Start working on yourself. And I think that the value will come. You'll respect yourself more and feel proud of yourself. And that value will come as you do. It's hard to feel worthy if we're stuck, which I don't really believe we're ever stuck. We're either backsliding or moving forward. It's hard to feel worthy if we're sliding backwards. So stop that backsliding momentum and move it to a forward momentum. And I think we start to feel worthy. I don't know whether any other way around it. We can't wish it. I'm just going to tell myself I'm worthy, by darn it. I'm worth a lot. It doesn't really work very well, that way. It doesn't stick.
That's interesting though, because it's like I actually use hypnosis and or meditation CDs and things like that, and meditation, and I've actually found that by mentally, just like what we're seeing MK Ultra and the brainwashing that goes on with MSM, with the mainstream media, that's gone on, we can do the same for ourselves. And so if we take the power into our own hands to say, hey, I'm going to brainwash myself into believing that I am beautiful and that I am amazing and that I am worthy. I have personally seen the power in that. And I've worked with people that, by working on that piece of it, because our subconscious mind is our operating system, right?
Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. You can't just wish it. You're doing meditation. You're conscious.
You have to actually practice it. Yeah.
You're doing something to change and being aware of the negative thought patterns, but you need a system to put in place to do that. And you've got a good system. You're meditating. You're consciously aware of it. You're doing some positive things to move forward. You're not just saying, I'm just going to tell myself I'm worthy and that's going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. It won't stay. You have to work with it, but it's a joyous work. We talk about the work of self development or personal progression. And it's actually a joyous, happy kind of work. I suspect you really enjoy your meditations.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same. It's what you're talking about. I think part of what you talk about is having tools in place so that you can follow your disciplines. Mm-hmm. But I think once you get into a new habit or a new pattern, it becomes more of, and sounds like a pejorative word, but it's not meant to be. It actually becomes an addiction, right? Like every morning I wake up, the first thing that I do is if I don't go get a cup of tea or coffee or something hot water, the next thing I do is I go sit down with my puppy dogs, and that's my quiet meditation. And it's just the first thing that I do. I don't even think about it. It's not like I need to set my alarm clock. I don't have anything in place, but it's because I've been doing it so consistently for so long.
Right. It's who you are. And I talk about that in Life Mastery, about that. It's the habit progression is we start with a honeymoon phase where we fall in love with our new habit. We're like, oh, I'm going to meditate, or I'm going to go to the gym. It's going to be so fun. I've got my meditation spot. I've got my new gym membership. And it's really great for a little bit. But then we have to push through what I call the Doldrum Phase for a period of time where we just have to really kind of make ourselves do it. Like, I've just got to discipline myself to do this thing because it's important to me. I want to be that person. And once you get through that phase, then it's just who you are. I borrow the phrase from Wayne Dyer, where he talks about you become the cure. You are a person who meditates. You're not a person who's meditating. You're a person who meditates. That's who you, Cynthia, are. Was who Sherry is. I go to the gym every day and I meditate.
You wouldn't be able to not do it because it's
who I am. It's not so much an addiction as in you get a dopamine release, although you probably do that kind of addiction, but it's an addiction it's not even addiction. It's just who I am. I can't imagine a life without going to the gym, or I can't imagine a life without meditation or without prayer or without working on myself. That's just who I am.
So what would you say to someone, and you've had this in your coaching, mentoring practice, right? Where they get all excited and, I'm going to, at the beginning of the year, the gym always gets crowded. I don't know what that's about. In January, it's like gets packed, and, it only takes like 2 weeks. And I'm like, where did everybody go? What?
Right. Yeah. We laugh about that. We laugh about New Year's resolutions. And I used to do that too and think, these people are weak. I've learned that that's not the problem. The problem is no systems. If you don't have a good system, you think, I'm going to go to the gym. You just decide you're going to do that, but you don't have a way to track what you're doing, remind yourself. so this is who you're trying to become. Pretty soon,
Yeah.
one day the kids are sick, or another day it's raining really hard, and you're, I'll do it tomorrow. And then pretty soon you've forgotten, or you just don't feel very good one day. But if you have a way of holding yourself accountable, that keeping that habit, then you can work through that doldrum phase that comes along for everybody until it becomes who you are and just what you do automatically. You may still not be excited to go to the gym. You get up in the morning and go, oh, got to go to the gym, but you're putting your shoes on and putting your workout clothes on as you're complaining out the door, right? Because you just don't consider not going, because that's just who you are. But that's what we're trying to do. It's all about habits, developing. That's how you progress in this life. You got to have habits. I have the habit of meditation. I have the habit of working out. I have the habit of prayer. I have the habit of reading.
But
I have the habit of studying.
So, but what are some of the tools? Like, how do people get over that hurdle? And two, like I found some days where, I decide, you know what, I'm just going to meditate longer, and I'm actually not going to go to the gym this morning. And that's actually okay. It's not the end of the world if I don't go later or I don't get there today. Like, for me, I guess it's so much of a habit that I know that no matter what, if I miss a day, that I'm actually going to get back the next day.
That's exactly it. It's who you are. So if you make a conscious decision that this is going to serve me better today, you don't have to worry about losing the habit because you've done it for so long. That's exactly the key, Cynthia. Just what you said is you just know you'll go back to it. I don't eat desserts and cookies and sugars and stuff like that, but I might. But first of all, it's not because I'm weak. It's because I made a decision to do it, to join. It's a celebration or whatever. And I know that tomorrow I'll quit. I'm not going to go back down that rabbit hole again. I'm done with that. And I don't have to do it. You can consciously decide to go, you're not going to go to the gym because it serves you better, not just because you're not in the mood or because you let something else get in the way. You consciously made that choice, and you can do that because tomorrow you'll be back.
Yeah. And also so I do like the accountability, and maybe you have some tools for that. For me though, for a person like me, if I have too many tools in place, then I lose my inspiration, and then I don't want to do it at all. So what do you say for someone like me?
Well, I've heard that before. The tools that I share are very simple. I've seen some very complex. I have a friend I think is addicted to personal development tools. He'll have these complex planners and things and all of this stuff going on. The tools I teach are very simple. But Peter Drucker said it, and it's universally true. It's a universal principle that what gets measured gets managed. And that's fact. We have to have some way to manage ourselves, to be honest with ourselves. I don't want to be
managed. I just don't.
Well, if it's your choice, and that's a different thing. I'll tell you that we used to do this thing at the gym. I'd have every once in a while somebody say, well, I don't like to track my progress on Tabatas and doing those things. So we do these, like maybe we're measuring push-ups or something. I will tell you that universally, the people who would not, it's just a question of jotting down how many you're doing. Nobody's making you. You want to do it. I want to get better. So I've got to remember how many push-ups I'm doing this week, so I'll know how many push-ups to do next week. It's not a question of the trainer telling you what to do. You write it down, and you know that you did 16 last week in 30 seconds. So this week I want to do 17. Those people will progress, and those who will not write it down stay at 16. And that is pretty much a universal truth.
And I do understand that. And it does make sense, like in a logical way. And it also might give people incentive that, okay, I did, this week, and this week I made progress. And so that can feel good, right? Like that helps them to feel that worthiness that we were talking about at the beginning, right? Mm-hmm.
And to watch your progress, So one of the tools let me go back and talk about what I mean by a tool. One of the best tools for developing habits ever is a very simple little chart. I call it a tracking sheet. It's how I started. I had no disciplines. And now people who know me will say that one of my hallmarks of my personality is how disciplined I am. I did that through a system. It was a very simple little, like a child's chart almost, where I put the habits I wanted down the left-hand side and the days of the month across the top. And then I checked them off as I did them. That little bit of personal accountability that's probably the one thing that has made the most amount of difference in my life as far as things that I practiced. I don't forget. At the end of the day, I still do it. I've been doing it for 40 years. At the end of the day, I think, I go to check it off. I'm like, shoot, I didn't drink all my water yet. And I went into the kitchen to get my last glass of water, right? It holds me accountable. And not just that though, it also reminds me. And then I can look back and say, oh, I have clients will come in and say, yeah, I work out. Well, how much you work out? Well, I work out, 3 or 4 times a week. Okay, well, let's track it. And they realize, they come back and say, I wasn't working out 3 or 4 times a week. I thought I was, but I wasn't.
How do they not? How do you not?
Well, they're probably doing 2 or 3, right? But we give ourselves more credit typically than when we really deserve. Yeah. And so they're doing it. They're just not doing it as faithfully
frequently as they think they are.
Over time.
That seems kind of, I get it, but I don't. It's like you either are going 3 or 4 days a week or you're not. Like,
well, they probably are some days, some weeks, and some weeks they're not, right? And some weeks they might not be going all. But what we look to the positive of the weeks that we did do it, and it's easy to kid ourselves. In fact, it's easier to kid ourselves than it is to kid other people. So it holds us accountable. So a tracking sheet does 3 things. It holds us accountable. It's not, and we pick our things. Nobody tells you what to put on it, right? I have a client comes in, what habits do you want to develop? Okay, I want to do this and this. Okay, let's get it on your tracking sheet. They choose. I choose mine. Everybody chooses their own. These are things I want. If I want it bad enough, I'm willing to track them. And so it holds us accountable. It reminds us of what we've decided to do. I track now between 10 and 12 items, depending on what I want to accomplish that month. It reminds me of all the things I want to do.
How many are you doing?
Probably about 10 to 12. I should have my planner in here. I'd show it to you, but I track about, I think right now I have 11 things that I'm tracking. Some things I'll do forever. And then some things are just, I want to do this for a month or 2 and work on a certain thing. So I've got to be reminded. I got to look at my sheet and say, I was going to do this thing, especially if my schedule gets messed up. I had an interview early this morning, for example, so everything got pushed back. And now I have to remember, how is it that I do all these things? What order will I do them in today? Because now I have to do them in a different order. So it reminds us, and it gives us a record of what we've done. So my clients don't throw their record, their tracking sheets away. They want to look at them over the months and see what they've done.
Can I ask what your personality style is?
Well, there's about a bazillion personality tests, but I will pretty much.
But I mean, do you lean towards more analytical? Do you lean towards more like how? Do you know what I mean? I could give you a specific system, but I'm just curious because I know that there's some people that are very much like, give me a system, give me set a set schedule, give me, and they really need that, right? And I think it's kind of a personality style too, isn't it? Where some people really operate well with that in a certain very structured type environment.
Well, that would not be me. I need a lot of freedom to make my own choices and live my own way. So I would chafe under a schedule, especially somebody else's schedule. Yeah, I'm very disciplined, so I want to set my own schedules and do my own things, but I need a lot of room to do it my own way. And so it depends on the personality test. I can't remember the one my daughter likes, and I can't remember the name of it. 2 people's name. It's where I'm like, I don't know, part introvert, part extrovert. Somebody else, the animal one, then I'm a lion. If I do the other color one, I'm a red. So strong personality, driven to be the best I can be. I don't know.
That we're all can be fluid in all of that. So I don't, sure. I'm just was curious because, I do find it to be valuable to track, right? And I especially in my business, I own a real estate company, and I did coaching for a very long time in that arena, as well as spiritual coaching and so forth. But and that's one of the biggest things is they want you to track. And for me, it was such a turn off for me that I literally did worse tracking myself than just visualizing what my intention was and going towards my end result. And then for me, and by the way, I think, so I'm in support of doing that if people need to get disciplined, right? because I've heard from people so many times saying, wow, you're so disciplined. And for me, I don't look at it that way because I always take inspired action. So I'm always motivated to just show up. And then the universe seems to deliver the right things at the right time. And I wonder if we're allowing in for the synchronicities of life to come in. If we get too, so maybe you can speak to that with your system, how that might allow for, because you said you're not on a schedule, but you do have the fluidity. So maybe you can speak to how that works with your system.
Well,
does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I guess, first of all, I would say I want a lot out of life. I want the very best that life has to offer. And I know that I'll need to have some method to get there. I do a lot. One of the first things I do with my clients is a visualization. They envision where they is that they want to go. I don't just sit down and randomly rat out a bunch of habits I think everybody ought to have. I don't even suggest
I know
those.
I just dove right into this, and I think there's more to it about the why and the what and the how, right?
If I don't have a plan, so we're business people,
yeah.
My husband and I, and you are the business. If we don't track ourselves, track our overhead, track our profit margin, we don't know where we're at, right? We don't know what goals to set, what we need to do to make things better. And so they're the same. I'm my own business. My business is me, like being the best me that I can be and then teaching it. And I need to make sure that I also track me and make sure that I'm on mark, that I'm headed towards my goals, the things that I want to accomplish, and I can accomplish more if I track it. I have so many habits that I would do. I don't need to track them. I do track them just because I like it. I don't need to track going to the gym. I am never going to not go to the gym. I don't need to track prayer. I would never not going to pray. I don't need to track meditation. I'm never not going to meditate. But there's some other things that I need to add to the mix that I do need to put a little bit of pressure on myself to get them done. I have a hard time getting my water in because I had a fundoplication surgery. It's a lot of work for me to get enough water. So I have to track that water. I ended up dehydrated a few years ago. For years, actually, it turned out I was dehydrated. Okay, I have got to track my water or it will not happen. So there's some things. I have a shoulder issue. I need to do a little therapy on it every day. If I don't track it, I won't do it. So for me, it makes the easy things, the things that I love, come pretty easily. Those things that I have to push myself to do are a little bit more work. I don't really always want to do it, but tracking the good things helps me, give me momentum to do the things that I'd probably rather not do. Yeah. I need to call my mother once a week. I do not like this. It is not a pleasant experience, but I need to do that. And if I don't,
why are you forcing yourself to do it then?
Because she's old and she's lonely, and I think that it's a person it would not be much of a person if I just leave her there. No. I mean, who would what kind of a human being would I be if I leave her lonely and sad? Aww. She's a toxic human being. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I need to at least do something to ease some of the burden of loneliness for her. I mean, who wouldn't do that? But I don't like it, so I have to track myself to do it. Does that make sense? So I do the higher level things that I wouldn't do out of the abundance of my heart, but still need to be done, right?
So I do have a little, and we won't go there into that too deep, but I do have a different theory on that. So
now let me go back and say something, because I talk a lot about toxic relationships in my book.
Yeah.
There are most people, and I've got a really good system for managing toxic relationships. It doesn't hurt anybody's feelings and everybody can be happy. I'm very good at it. I have made a conscious decision. This is how much I speak to my mother. That's why it's once a week and not every day. This is what I will talk about with her and what I won't talk about her. I have boundaries on that. But we do owe something back to the world. And sometimes it isn't pleasant. So we have to find out how to do that in a way that does not hurt us, but does not hurt the other person as well. If my mother, she loves me, and if she never heard from me, it would really hurt her. I can't invest too much in her because it will only hurt me. So I found a medium ground. I can call her, we can talk about the weather, her flowers, blah, blah, blah. And we're both happy at the end of the conversation, and it's all good. You see what I'm saying? It's not an either or. I know a lot of people like toxic people, just shoot them out. Well, that's great for most people, but there are people in our world that we can't get rid of or that we have an obligation to. So we have to find a way that we can do both.
Yeah. Like I said, I won't go too much further in that because I have a different spiritual feeling about that. And toxicity, I won't put myself into that sort of environment if I can help it.
Well, Cynthia, neither will I. Yeah. I have found a way to do it without doing that.
Yeah.
And you can do that. Now, some people you just jettison. I mean, there's no point in even dealing with it. You know, there's not even and some people, but you can find a way to do both. And it's entirely possible because I've done it with her. It took a lot of years to figure it out.
It sounds like a whole heck of a lot of work. And to create all
it's a 5-minute conversation once a week, right?
You know, and all of that. But you know, God bless you. Like I do support that we're here to assist and be a contribution to society. And if that's in your family relationships or wherever that is, like I support that, you know, and everybody has to go with what feels good and right for them. And they know within their soul, especially if you're spiritual. Like, I think that at the end of the day, you have to check in with your own inner being on what's okay, what's not okay. And so let's talk more about let's go back to your book though, a little bit.
Let's do that.
You know, I think keeping people the accountability is really fantastic. But one of the things that you do is you do coaching and mentoring. And I talk a little bit about that because I actually think coaching is incredibly valuable. Like, why would somebody want to up level their game to use a coach, or why wouldn't they?
Everybody that I know that's either I know by reputation or I know personally who's highly successful spends an inordinate amount of their income on coaching and other personal development kind of things. It's just I think if you really want to be successful as a human being and certainly in your field, coaching is so valuable. I think three things I'd say that I feel like my clients get. First of all, it's direction. A lot of people have got the motivation. They're just not quite sure where to place it. They're not really that sure what they want. Sometimes they think they want this thing or that thing. They need somebody to talk it through with. And then they need some tools to how to get it. And sometimes it's a question of helping people make the contacts that they need. I can guide them the right direction to find the help that they need that I don't offer. As far as, I know a person who's super good at getting you out, working with people in deep debt. I can help you somewhat, but you might need an expert in this area or an expert in business. And I connect people. So there's some things I do. And a lot of people just need to talk through it too. They don't have enough people in their life that is encouraging, that believes in them. So a lot of my coaching is just, and one of my gifts is that I believe in people. I just can believe in people with all my heart and soul. And I mean it and I believe it. And it's very sincere. And I really believe people can accomplish great things. So I really believe in my clients. And that's one of the things that attract them to me, I think, is my belief in them. There's not that many people out there believing in us or even thinking that much about us, but to have somebody devoted to them who believes in them and is encouraging them in their goals and teaching them how to dream and how to go to set big goals and to believe in themselves. That's all mentoring. I call it mentoring because I've been there rather than, mentoring is like when you put your arm around somebody and say, let me teach you what I know. Let me help you, guide you, because I've been there, as opposed to coaching, which I kind of think sounds like, go get them, like a sports coach or something.
Yeah. Well, so, it's also just whether it's mentor or, I work with, and I'm actually going to be interviewing her, a woman, Lisa Thomas. She's I don't know if she actually would even categorize herself as a specific type of healer, but I do a lot of work with her that goes into potentially past lives and just shifting energetically different things that might be stuck in our emotional body, and that it's a little more woohoo waha'i, but But many times I might have something that might be a challenge, and just being able to have a sounding board and to talk it out. Maybe it's not even a suggestion, but she might be able to help me to kind of figure out how to think it out. So
yeah, I don't know her personally, obviously, but I actually totally have a huge belief in the power of talk therapy. I do not, I mean, as a coach, mentor, you do some of that. That I think this is where you're going with this, and I totally believe it, and I've experienced it myself. I love this book called The Great Pain Deception by Stephen Ray Osnich, I think is how you say his name.
Is it the what deception?
The Great Pain Deception.
Oh.
That most of well, not maybe most, I think probably every bit of the chronic pain that we experience is an emotional root. So figuring that out is, I think it's highly profitable to figure out where things come through, talk through some, I don't know if this is what she does, but sounds like what she does. I think that talk therapy is huge. As long as you don't wallow in it and it doesn't hold you back, and you don't feel like a victim.
This is like a higher energetically than talk therapy. It's here's the challenge. Let's release it. Let's figure out how to where it began. Did it start at a certain age? What happened there? And then energetically unraveling it, and then it's almost as if by magic that challenge doesn't come up in my life anymore, or it's shifted.
I've totally had that experience, and not that long ago, a number of times. And and I totally believe that. Although I didn't manage it with somebody else, I did it with my own myself. But I just want to think about that. If your brain is so powerful that it can create pain, chronic pain, and in a way it does that to protect you, because if we had to live with all the emotional pain we had every day, we'd hardly get through the day, right? So in a sense, your body protects you and lets you function by putting the pain in your body. But still, if our brains are so powerful that they can do that, what else could they create in a positive, right? If I could take all the energy that my brain has used to create chronic pain to deal with emotional traumas or problems or just stress, if I could reverse that and use my brain to create, I just think that topic is fascinating.
So I know this is again a little off your topic, but right now with the jabberdoodle and some of the things that have been unleashed on our society has been to disconnect us from how powerful we really are. And I'll just kind of leave it at the powers that be, which I did talk about on my previous video with David Weiss on the flat earther guy. So if you want to find out who the powers that be are, he's got it on his video. But anyway, that and what's happening politically and all of these things that are unfolding is all about disconnecting us from at least attempting to disconnect us from how powerful we really are. And, many years ago, I left real estate temporarily. The market was crashing. A friend of mine, some people have heard this story, but he had lupus. And lupus, it's actually very rare for men to get it or to have it. It's an autoimmune disease. And it's basically, so I started asking him, what is lupus? Like, what does it actually mean? And at first he didn't get it, but ultimately he said, well, it's my organs are fighting each other. So I just simply started asking him, well, what within you, like, why are you fighting yourself? What within you are you fighting? And through a series of dialogue like that, within 90 days, it was completely out of his system. The doctors couldn't believe it. They tested his blood, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And they even sent out the 3rd blood test to a lab because they couldn't believe it. And the doctors had actually told him that he wouldn't survive to see his son Stevie graduate from high school. And when he showed up on my doorstep in tears, he said, I'm going to see Stevie graduate. I'm going to be here to see Stevie. So absolutely. And I didn't do laying on the hands. I didn't do any of that. All I did was just start asking him some bigger questions of, well, what is possible? instead of focusing on, oh, I have this thing, or I have this pain in my body, or I have this, right? Focusing on what would it be like if you didn't have that pain? What would it be like if you didn't have that dis-ease in your body? So, and that's kind of where I go into, we have an infinite potential, and we do have infinite possibilities. And, sometimes people say, well, why would God do this to me? Well, maybe it's not a test. It's not a lesson. It's actually about figuring out what within you is maybe causing that pain.
Yeah, no, I've been through that, and I know what you're talking about. And I think lupus is one of at least a dozen things that, from plantar fasciitis to lupus to all kinds of autoimmune diseases, that are within our power to control. Maybe all of them, maybe at some level, every disease and every illness is within our power. I don't know, but there's a whole host of them that are, and I think it's just looking at it often. It's just stepping back and looking at it, and maybe talking through it like he did with you. But it worked for me. I could hardly, and I've been so physical all my life, and I couldn't even run across the street to catch a street light, a walk light, a traffic light. It was, and
but what happened? Why?
I just, well, I guess the gist of it was this, I think, is what happened is I had this fitness business, which I invested. It was fitness and personal development. So I was heavily invested in it. And I did that for 10 years, and it was very successful. We were voted best in our city, Boise, and one year, and second best another year. Very successful. Lots of people, changed a lot of lives. And I'm the person who does the coaching, right? Like, I help people make sure they keep their life in balance, but somehow it got me, and I didn't even realize it. And I had all this pain in my body, didn't know what it was coming from. And someone gave me the book, The Great Pain Deception, which I think you would really like.
Yeah.
And it was just like, aha. And a friend of mine, and she said, a lot of people just read his story. It's not even all about his story. It's short, his story short. And then they're better just reading his story. And I think, I'm open, I'll read it. And as you understand how the whole pain thing works, it just goes away. And I did much like your friend. I would, and his advice, the author's advice, I would imagine my body without pain, or what doesn't hurt. Okay, I'm obsessed with this one thing that hurts, but what doesn't hurt? My arms don't hurt. My back doesn't hurt. My ankles don't hurt. Whatever doesn't hurt. Anyway, it was and interesting.
Focus on something that is healthy.
It was like, once you shine the light in that dark corner, the darkness has to go away. And that's what it's like. You shine the light in this area that is kept hidden. And once the light's there, you can't unknow that anymore, right? And that's what it's like. So, no, that is a real thing. And I hope people who are listening who have chronic pain will invest in something, some talk therapy or a book, or call you up or something.
Let's do some soul ascension transformation with me. Yeah. I got to figure out my sessions, though. I wasn't taking one-on-ones there for a while. So, you know what? I just had a question for you too. So I want to go back to your book though. And I'm going to share your book. What motivated you or inspired you to write the book?
I'd been asked for so many years when I'd speak somewhere, they'd say, you should write a book. And I was always like, yeah, I'm a speaker, not a writer, because my skills are, if I can't think it and I can't say it, I can't do it. But then I had a couple that I really respect, a power couple in our city who attended a workshop that I did. And they said, really, Sherry, you really should write a book. And I told Ken when I got home, and he said, no, it's time. You really should write it. When my husband is so wise and so supportive of me. And when I listened to him. He is the coach for me, because at this point it's hard to find one. But when he tells me, I listen, and I said, it felt right.
All right.
I had a couple other people in my corner too. I had a client I was working with. He was so excited about me writing a book. And I had somebody had been a sort of a friend who'd been kind of coaching me a little bit. And he's like, yeah, sure. So everybody it all kind of, and then when I did it, Cynthia, I can't tell you, I thought, well, how do I do? I'm not a writer. Well, I'll write it the way I speak, because I'm a good speaker. And people really enjoy my speaking style. So I'll just write. Well, it didn't really work that way, but it got me started. But I cannot tell you that flowed out of me. I'm almost embarrassed to say how few hours I have in it. But I mean, I put good effort into it. Don't get me wrong. But I wrote that in 7 months, and I still was traveling and doing a lot of things. But then my husband would say, you wrote it quickly, but it actually took you 40 years to write it, because it took you 40 years to learn it, right? But that book was really inspired, and I feel almost guilty claiming it. It feels like it flowed through me onto the page.
That's how it works. So when you're in stream of consciousness, and you had been developing that life mastery.
And I did have 40 years of experience, and I know my topic. I've lived it, and I knew it. And then I did a lot of speaking, so I could talk about the things that I could write about things I've been speaking about, use the stories and the examples and things. But yeah, that was how it happened. And then it just, and the other miracle, this happens when you know you're on your right course. This happens. I didn't know how to write a book, or I just started, it's Word document, right? And I just start writing it. Just as I would get to the next point where I needed to know the next thing, somebody would show up. Like, people were introduced to me, or I needed to know how to publish it. I needed how to get a book number. I needed to get a cover. I needed to get a website.
Everything would show up, right?
It would just show, but just before I needed it, just as I was about to need it, it would show up.
So that's what I'm talking about. Like, so everything in your book is spot on. That, having the disciplines, having keeping track of yourself, all of that, while at the same time, when you're in the flow, the divine flow, and you're doing what you're meant to be doing at that time, like, everything shows up. Yeah,
it does. It really does. And I think that's a universal principle, don't you? I mean, I think that's just true for everybody, not just me and you. But I think whatever you're doing, when you're on the right path, doesn't mean there's not obstacles. I mean, there were definitely obstacles.
Yeah.
Chapters that were harder to write. I was driven to my knees more than once to try to be inspired. But overall, the right things, the right people are in your path.
Yeah. Super. I love that part of the story, because that was why I kept saying, I like, having, especially for some people, really need the structure, right? While at the same time, like, I want to allow for that fluidity, because, I was talking to a friend, I don't know, a few weeks back, and he's actually a podcaster, and some of the folks that are following me here know who I'm talking about. His show's called Cannabis in Combat. And anyway, he and I were talking, and this inspired conversation came out. And so he's like now up-leveled what he's doing. And it was never it wasn't part of the check off, like it wasn't part of the goals. But because we had that conversation, it's like, oh, yeah, I think that's probably part of where his God-given next steps are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
And I think what you're saying that let's go back to that tracking some of those things by taking those certain things that I want to make sure get accomplished daily or weekly. I don't have to think about those things. They automatically are done because I'm checking them off. So none of my extra creative energy is going into just remembering I've got to get this thing. And so that gives me a lot of freedom to then, because everything I do is pretty creative. The working with people, the workshops, the speaking, everything requires a lot of brain power and a lot of creativity. And I feel like that frees me up and gives me the freedom to do things spontaneously. I don't have to worry about, and even things like, when people are trying to get in shape, for example, they're not very fit. They know they should lose some weight, or they know they should, I hate to talk about weight loss. I try not to use that phrase, but they know they should make some changes in their body. How many times a day they think about that? Like every time they're getting dressed, every time they take a shower, every time they put their seatbelt on, all day long, they're like, I should get to the gym. I need to buy bigger pants. I should get in shape. All that energy goes into that. When you take that away and it's already in process, you're working on it. Now you don't have to think, you're in system, it's happening. So now I can use that energy for something else.
Yeah. So I'm a former fatty. And I say that lovingly, jokingly, but I was teased for being a fatso, and, things kids will say, here comes the blimp and stuff like that. And, looking back, I was chubby. I wasn't I really wasn't that big, right? I was just a chubby kid. So, but the self-concept that I had, that I carried with me, was that I'm fat. I'm fat. Oh my God, I have to lose weight. Like I have to get in shape. And, you know, I've been working out now since I was like 12 years old. But you know what shifted for me, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about, and part of why it is helpful to go to a trainer or a coach or a mentor like yourself, is that I made a decision. I was looking at a health magazine and I saw a fitness competitor, and she was on stage. She wasn't totally ripped. She was just looked very healthy, had a feminine figure, had like an hourglass shape, whatever. And I took her picture and I put it up on my mirror. And in my closet, I wrote, so my closet door had a mirror on the front and the back. And I wrote, I think I wrote like with lipstick on my mirror that I have a beautiful body. So that when I looked in the mirror, I wasn't focusing on, oh, you know, if I, you know, I'm chubby here, or if I could just, you know, which is I don't know if it's the natural set point for some people, right? Like you're talking about, oh, I got to get in shape. Oh, and so they're looking at themselves in a negative way. And so I started reading that every time I would look in the mirror. So whether I was putting my clothes on or whatever, I have a beautiful body. I'm beautiful. I have a beautiful body. So I kept reprogramming myself. And then I would see the other picture on my other mirror with that figure, with that beautiful girl, and coming from a place of wow, isn't that amazing that I'm going to look like that? Right. And just visualizing my own body looking like that, not coming from a place of, oh, she's better than me, or I'm not good enough, but coming from a place of, yeah, that's me. That's what I'm going to do. And so what happened for me is I did get a trainer, but it wasn't even intentional. Like it wasn't a plan. It was just, okay, I'm sending myself these positive messages. I've got this visual, and within a matter of weeks, I bump into this trainer, and he trained fitness competitors, and he's like, no, you don't understand. This takes a lot of discipline. Like, you know, I don't think you understand what this is about. You're going to have to train like every day, whatever. And you've got to eat a certain way. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in, you know, yeah, I'm doing that.
You know, we spent so much time. That's a beautiful story, and exemplifies something that I teach in Life Mastery, because we only talked about that one system, about the tracking system, but I have another system about, because that's what we do, but who we want to be. You had wanted to believe and be that person with a beautiful body. So you put it up, you wrote it down in it as if it was. So I have another system in there, which is, I love so much. It's changed. It's been like, it's like affirmations on steroids, kind of. It changes the way you think and behave subconsciously and consciously. And it's the same thing, only written. So totally, that is just a beautiful example of how you became something that you thought about. I haven't as much in this interview, but I find I sound almost manic in some of my interviews. I laugh so much. I had in my affirmations, because I was always so serious. I was born serious, you know, intense. So I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be that person, but I wanted to be happy too, look happy, because I am happy. I wanted it to show. So I haven't had my affirmations for about 10 years that I laugh and smile easy. And I do laugh and smile easy now, but I didn't before. And so affirmations, I do about a dozen of those as well, about who I want to become, as if I already am that, just like you did. I have a beautiful body.
Yeah.
I
living
write.
in that end result though.
Yeah, living that. So I'll write. I still, to this day, because I don't want to lose it, I laugh and smile easily. I still write that. I am positive and optimistic. I'm cheerful. I speak well of others. I mean, I want
it coming right through the screen.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you know, I'm becoming those things as I write that I am those things. So like you did that one and you read it, when you write them, it's like, this is a Brian Tracy thing. Actually, I didn't make this one up either, but when you write them, it's like it amplifies it like 100 times by just writing those things every day. So that's one of the things that I teach my clients to do. All my clients do tracking. All my clients do affirmations, written daily affirmations.
So how do you help to adjust somebody that maybe they write their affirmations, but it doesn't start to come to fruition? How do you help guide them? Because usually there's something about that that's causing them not to be able to live it.
Well, nothing's immediate, like I didn't just start writing this the next day I started laughing, right? So it takes some time to happen. And it's also, I will tell you this though, I wrote about the laughing part. I used to separate them. Then I added smiling. So I had just added smiling. This is a good story. I had just added smiling, and we were on a trip, and I remember we had a layover in Denver. And I said to Ken, is there something on me? Because people are looking at me and kind of smiling at me.
There's something on me.
Yes, there's something sticking out of me. It's something because people keep looking at me. And I realized I was smiling at them and they were smiling back, right? And so that quick, it was making a change. Sometimes there'll be quick changes. Sometimes they're slow. I just encourage them to keep at it and maybe make sure the language is powerful for them. To not try to impress other people with their words. You said, I have a beautiful body. Somebody else might have to write something different. Right, that worked for you. So to use powerful language, and if it's important with you to stay with it, this is so surefire that if you want it and you write it in language for you, it will happen. It might take years, very slowly. It might happen like I did with smiling, very quickly, but it will happen. So
that's awesome. Yeah, and I do think that part of it is you have to really pay attention to how it feels in your body, though, when you say it.
Because, you want to be excited about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, totally. Just like I was saying, that image of that woman, I could see how some women might look at that and start comparing themselves. Well, I'll never be like that. And so if they're telling themselves a negative, if you're telling yourself something negative about that affirmation, whether it's a visual one or it's an actual written affirmation, then that's you're going to meet resistance, and that's not going to, right? So you have to
that's absolutely true. Yes.
Yeah. So it is that, I think that's a really important piece to it, is make sure that it actually fills your heart up with, wow, wouldn't that be great if I was smiling?
Yeah, you want to feel excited about it. Like, I want to be this. I'm excited about it. Right?
Yeah.
And I tell them that you want to feel like when you read it, you want to be like, or when you write it, you want to be like, yeah, I want that. That's another value though of having a mentor, is that we can talk about that. If they're feeling, we can talk about the soundtracks that might be negative. I would really recommend John Acuff's Soundtracks book. He does a nice job. It's really simple, easy little read, but he does a nice job about talking about the negative soundtracks. So to make sure that we're not doing self-defeating behaviors, like we're writing this affirmation here, but in our mind, we're saying, you're not that, you're not that, you're not that, you're not that, right? And a coach, if you're a good mentor, you can identify those pretty well. If you just talk with the people about them, they start to come to the surface pretty quickly as you work with them, I found. And then we can eliminate those so they're not getting in the way. But that powerful language, when you write an affirmation that you want, something you want, you have to be excited about. Like I would write, and I'd write, I laugh easily, and in my mind I go, ha, 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 ha. It just sort of got me laughing right there in the moment. I've got another one that I picked up from the John Acuff book, because I do tend to still get serious. Like I'm driven, I've got all these serious things to do. And he said, he started saying, my life is dope. That's kind of a phrase from the 90s. I don't know.
My life is dope.
My life is dope. So I started writing. It made me laugh, it made me smile every time I'd say that. So I started saying, I said to my husband, he's like, what? I said, yeah, you're old. But you didn't raise teenagers in the 90s. But my life is dope. I still write that one. My life is dope. Makes me laugh, so.
That's super cute. Okay. So I showed your book. People can find your book on Amazon, right?
Yes.
Is there a better place for them to go to get it?
No, unless you want a signed edition, you can contact us on the website and you can buy a signed edition. Otherwise, those are only hardback, but the hardback, paperback, and ebook are on Amazon, and the audiobook, which is very nicely done, I have to say. It's really beautifully, even though I don't have the nicest voice and I do read it, but there's some other voices in there and they're just beautiful voices and nice music. And it's been just beautifully produced, and that will be available before Christmas. I'm very excited about that.
Fantastic. And so I'll put in the links of the description, but can you tell us also if they want to go find you for for workshops or mentorships? Like, where can they, you said you can go to our website, but I don't think you actually
I didn't say that it was. It's Life Mastery Info. Life Mastery was taken. So we have lifemasteryinfo.com. And then I'm Sherry, Sherry, at lifemasteryinfo.com. And that's my email.
Oh, no.
Of course, I'm on Facebook. It just
cut out.
Let me say it again.
All right. Well, I'm going to put it into the links. And so I think we lost her feed. There you go. You came back. We lost you for a second. So I think were you giving us your email, Sherry?
Yeah, so it's lifemasteryinfo.com. Okay. And it's Sherry, Sherry, at lifemasteryinfo.com. And I'm on Facebook and I respond. You can message me on Facebook or you can send me an email. I respond to everything that I get.
So do you do general mentorship, or are you doing fitness mentorship, or how exactly?
No, I do all. If you don't want to work in all 8 areas, I don't work with you. That's kind of how it goes. No, it's whole life, all 8 areas. I don't do. I can do fitness. I can do business. I can do relationships. I've taught all those things separately, but this is whole life. This is all 8 areas. If you want to just move forward as a whole person, that's what I'm looking for. And I do it right now. I do it in person because I can stay plenty busy with people locally. I'm not opposed to doing it on Zoom for somebody who doesn't live here. But right now, all my clients are local. And I've got a few that are phasing out with me. So that'll be sad. First of the year, I'm going to have some openings. People are finishing.
Yeah, so you're going to have to get comfortable doing some online stuff, probably.
Yeah, I think I'll feel better about it now because of all the Zoom interviews that I've done.
Yeah.
But I really miss that. I really, really like the one-on-one. I can look in their eyes. You know, I can make sure that I see the energy you feel, you know, the feeling between, I can feel the energy and I can sense more about how they're doing. And that's important to me. But, you know, we live in this world. And so I am willing to do Zoom. I've done it and I could do it again.
Awesome. All right. Well, anything else you'd like to share before we check out?
I would just, if I could leave people with this one thing is, you know, we're living, you talk about this troubled time and we're hearing the news and all the things that are wrong and the things that are right. And if I could just say, this is one thing that we can do to improve whatever it is we're worried about, whatever your political views, which side of the line you're on, or if your relationships you want to improve, it all boils down to the same thing. Work on you. It creates a ripple effect. You be the best person you can be. That's the only real significant way you can change the world. It's that way.
Be the change you want to see in the world, right?
That Mahatma Gandhi said it. You be the change you want to see in the world. Amen. And that will make more difference than stomping your foot or marching at the White House or complaining or watching the news. Just go to work and be the best you can be.
Well, definitely don't watch the news. But
don't watch the news. That'll be that's a rabbit hole. Yeah, don't watch the news.
So I'm gonna cap it off with one last thing. Is be the light. Don't just shine the light. Be the light.
Yeah, be the light. Yeah, be the light, because that's the only way. If you're not authentic, nobody cares what you think. Nobody cares what you believe. They want to see what you do and who you are, and that's what inspires people, not your opinions. You know, if we all realize that nobody cares what your opinion is, right? Unless they respect you and they want to be like you, they don't really.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. And hopefully that, speaking on that kind of note, that hopefully we shined a lot of light today and touched whoever was meant to be touched today. And if you liked it, share it out, share it to the world, somebody who could use a positive message. So
sure. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Cynthia. It was a pleasure.